Good afternoon. It's 1:30 p.m. Monday, July the 12th. This is the Real Property Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Also let to know all citizens who wish to speak during the meeting should have emailed their comments by now, and we'll get into that later. But the call to order and acknowledgement that the press and public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. All committee members are present, and we have city administration here as well. City Administrator as well as Douglas Carr. And we also have some guests here today as well. Second order of business, approval of previous meetings minutes from June the 7th of 2021. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Number 3, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? Okay, no citizens' comments today. Number 4 on the agenda, Marina tenant comments. And Desiree, I'll turn that over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We have tenants here in the audience. I'm not sure if they have any prepared comments. If you do, you can certainly share them with the rest of the committee now. Or I know there are a couple of items on the agenda that pertain to some of them, so we can entertain that discussion at that time, and the chair can suspend the rules of order and allow them to participate in that discussion at that time, if that's what you all would like.
So
But this would be an opportunity for them if they have any specific comments they would like to bring to
over
you
and above
all.
what the normal presentation would be. from
Correct.
Barker 116.
Yes.
Okay, so are there any comments? Okay. Yeah. All right, so Desiree, I don't need to suspend the rule of order, just go right on through. Okay.
No.
All right, so let's move on to old business. First item A, update on the Marina Dock Rehabilitation Project. And so Desiree, if you'll take that away, we'd appreciate it.
All right, I'll give you all an update. So as you all know, the work is underway. Salmons, the contractor, is remobilizing to the site this week, starting today, to begin the installation of the gangway platforms and permanent gangways. As you all know, that was one of the items that we were waiting on for several weeks. We didn't have a concrete shipping date from the manufacturer, but those have been received, thank God. And they're going to start installing those this week. They anticipate that work taking about a week, and they'll be installing pile caps if those arrive while they're here, while they're mobilized to the site. The electrical installation of both the restaurant and the face docks is proceeding according to plan. Those will be secured to the support trays that are attached to the underside of the permanent gangways once they are in place. The connections for water and fire protection, those are currently at a standstill because of the unavailability of some materials. Salmons is working with ATM, the project engineer, on some alternatives in material selection if that's necessary. Salmons plans to demo the existing charter docks. So those are the docks that are in front of the Marina store. And those are dock area B, if I recall correctly, in the drawings that we all know by heart now. So those are going to start, they're going to start demolishing the one that runs parallel to the boat ramp first. And they're going to install a temporary gangway just so that people still have access to access the dock, people that are using the boat ramp. And that's something that Brian had requested of them, that we could we're doing this in phases. So they're going to be able to allow that to stay in place. They're going to be using the one on the other side, not the one on the charter side, while they're unloading and unloading while using the boat ramp. And then no other work will be performed there until they have the ability to release the other section once they're complete. We want to make sure that everything can be relocated to the restaurant and the face dock before they demobilize the charter docks. So that's what's happening right now. We have executed a change order associated with the change order request for the piling that had to be removed from the intercoastal side. That was for 17,000. Council approved that. And I've also received a change order request for the additional time. As you all recall, when we had the presentation from Salmons and ATM about the delay with the work, that now it's going to be completed in mid-November. So I'll be executing that today.
Is that what, yeah, that's what we have on the agenda later, right?
No, that's something else.
Okay,
This
I'm
is for the Salmons contract, the extension of time for the completion of the project.
Okay,
That it's now expected to be completed November 19th. It's the date that they have provided. Other than that, that's all I have.
John, Kevin, any comments, questions?
Well, I know we've got in new business, the discussion of the extension, so I've got a handful of questions. And is Kirby going to be a?
He is not. He's actually on vacation this week, so.
Well, no, but I don't have any questions.
I do.
Okay, Kevin.
On the finger docks, estimated time for that to be complete.
I don't have the timeline in front of me, but based on our conversation, that was supposed to be completed by end of August, the completion of the charter dock. And as you all recall, the last section, which will be fuel, the fuel dock and what we call dock area A, will follow right after Labor Day.
Okay, thanks.
Brian, do you know anything? Yeah.
Okay.
Mid-August, yeah, mid to late August, that should be completed, including utility work and gangways.
All right. Okay, if no other questions, we'll move on. Let's move to the
Oh,
update.
I'm sorry,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I saw the dock insurance. So I do want to update you on that
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Please do.
I added it to the agenda just so that I didn't forget. So we are in the process of securing insurance. You all recall we had this conversation at Ways and Means not too long ago with the fact that not a lot of providers are willing to risk providing insurance coverage for marinas. We're still working with our brokers and getting this done, but we continue to find that the premiums for that type of coverage, for dock coverage, is between 9 and 10% of the replacement cost. We're looking at a replacement cost for our docks at 4.8 million based on the contract number and our current climate. And so we're looking at a premium of about $400,000 to $500,000 a year based on the premiums that we've paid in the past. I think we need to have a very serious conversation with the rest of council about, is that affordable? Or are we better off looking at a self-insurance option for the city? Because if we're paying, $500,000 every year for insurance, should we be putting that in a fund for us to use in the event of damage? That's an option. I've had this conversation with Kirby, who clearly has worked with a lot of other marinas up and down the East Coast. And he says that a lot of people are finding themselves in the same boat. Pardon the pun. Ooh, that was good. Evaluating that just because the premiums are going up. And again, not a lot of people are willing to insure that risk, particularly during hurricane season. We're still hopeful that we can get some type of coverage. But it's just going to be a matter of how much it is and whether we're willing to pay for that or self-insure.
Let me be clear on that. This is not the additional builder's risk premium we were talking about at council.
Correct.
This is the annual premium going forward.
This is for property insurance. So something happens to the dock after they're completed, do we have any coverage to replace them in the event of either damage due to a named storm or damage by lightning or fire or any other peril.
Mhm. Including wind.
We currently have, so we currently insure the other set of docks that are in our coastal waterway that are not being replaced. So we have coverage there, and the coverage that we have does include wind, flood, and named storm. The builder's risk does not include that.
I know that.
But our current insurance carrier for the other set of docks do provide that. But that is what we're seeing. It's about 10%. The deductible for that type of policy is about 10% of the value of the docks. So once the docks are replaced, the estimated replacement value for the new ones and the old ones will be about $4.8 million in total. So when you look at a premium, 10% of that, we're looking at a $480,000, $500,000 for the premium.
What do we currently pay?
We pay about that. We pay about 9%
Okay,
As the
That-
premium or the deductible?
for the premium.
Okay,
but on a lower value.
Correct.
Docks, yeah, okay.
40-year-old docks.
40-year-old docks. yeah.
Correct.
Okay,
if I
John.
may, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, go ahead and weigh in. And I don't have the data on what claims we filed over the past 20 years that we've had, 20 plus years that we've had the Marina. But I'm willing to bet that the payout on those is less than $500,000. And I'm looking at the Marina manager, seeing if he can kind of concur.
Mhm.
So, and I know history isn't, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, but, it's all we have to go on. And it seems like the self-insurance is the obvious choice. And certainly that's a full council
Mhm.
discussion, but from my vantage point, I can't imagine us paying $500,000 in premiums that will, pay off in 10 years.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Especially for brand new docks.
Mhm.
So it's just whether storms come up or not.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same. So we'll take this to council, right?
Yes, sir.
For further discussion, but,
Yes, sir.
all right, so thanks for adding that on.
You're welcome.
All right, item B, update on the Marina restaurant renovation by Marker 116 LLC.
All right. Dave, do you want to? Dave,
Dave, can we get to the microphone, please?
if you don't mind, thank you.
We like to get you on video and audio.
So the YouTube
Just-
captioning
Yeah,
can
if
get
you would,
your,
just give
get your
us your
crystal clear.
name also.
Dave Lorenz with Marker 116 LLC. So the update that I have for us, we've pretty much finished the demo and also the repairs of the areas. There's a lot of rotten wood that we've replaced in the floors under the bathrooms. We've taken the back side of the building down where the large structural damage was that was in the Hill report, if everybody remembers. So we've kind of secured the building, so to speak, and we're in the process now of kind of the preliminary MEP stuff, which is, we've got all the ductwork out and we're putting all new ductwork in. We've got the hood that's been removed as well, and we've started with electrical and plumbing. The rough ends have started on all that kind of stuff, as well as the construction of the front kind of gazebo bar kind of stuff, and started the construction of the back deck area that I think the first floor is in, and we're waiting on some supplies to be able to take it to the second floor. So our biggest thing, as y'all know, with the docks, is materials and hangups with stuff. We have some 8x8s we're waiting on that 2 months ago, oh yeah, no problem, and then when you go to order them, like, oh wait, they're 8 weeks out. So as anybody in construction and as y'all have had with the Marina docks, it's just stuff is in and then it's out, and there's a lead time on that. So we feel good about the process. We're in the building stage where that's where we want to be. It starts smelling like sawdust in there, and you see there's framing. The bathrooms are framed up, which is great. The brand new bathrooms that are in front of the building. So progress is being made, and it's just the slow, waiting on supplies has been the thing that I've never seen in my career of how stuff's out, and the lead time. So we feel good about it, but we obviously would hope to be further along. But I think everybody in construction right now kind of knows that it's a challenge. Any questions?
I'd like to ask Kevin to weigh in, being our committee expert on building industry.
I don't know about expert, but Oh, I mean, I'm living in his world as well. I mean, the one good thing, lumber pricing seems to be coming down pretty
A little
consistently.
bit, yeah.
But getting what you need is delayed, trades are delayed. So I can feel their pain, definitely.
It's kind of specialty pieces, 8x8s. I mean, big things that, not plywood or stuff like that, but just specific things that we need to move forward on are we're waiting on. So it's been ordered, but we're just waiting on.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a renovation now. Cabinets are 12-week lead time, windows are 12-week lead time, so.
I know the bar area there, you got the steel, right? I mean, you had no problem getting that. It's
That
just
wasn't a
the-
problem. It's the beams that are gonna attach
Right.
all of and then create the roof line.
Right,
That's one of the big things that we're waiting on, as well as on the back deck, or I think 4 of them that are gonna attach the bottom deck to the top deck are just huge, 16-foot pieces
Right.
of wood. So those are just hard to come by. And so they're on their way.
okay.
You know?
John?
Yeah, I know that this is highly variable and difficult, not knowing when certain materials are going to come, but can you just give us a rough timeline estimate for us and for the public of here's the milestones that we kind of see over the next couple of months? And
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of, even on Saturday, we actually met with our contractor and had to, shore up some things and stuff like that. But, we definitely are seeing a late fall. You have the thing was we're falling right into hurricane season, which could knock you out for a week. And then supply issues. So a late fall is kind of where we're looking at. But we're in the process of moving forward with like seeing it, every week you go in there, you'll see stuff happening. So they're now running plumbing lines, which is great, so that's all happening. Those kind of things are happening. So yeah, it's probably more of a late fall into November, December, depending on weather is going to be the big one. If we have a storm, which we've had in the last 5 years, that, you have a state of emergency and everybody has to leave town and all of a sudden you get back and you've missed a week and a half. So
Would we be talking, when you say late fall, November, December, are you talking about the total restaurant or just part of it, like the outdoor?
so that would be the total restaurant.
The total restaurant?
Yeah.
Well, keep our fingers crossed. on that.
Yeah. And we've discussed trying to do it in stages and can we get the downstairs open and then outside and that could be really a possibility and that could speed things up. It's just, then you have an unfinished area that creates hazards and problems, with customers, going into areas that aren't finished and stuff like that. So, but we're in that process where things are starting to move forward and we're starting to check the boxes of progress and building, not just demo, going the other way. Kind of, so we're seeing stuff happening and the crews that we got on there right now are good. They're really moving. That's a good sign.
Okay. Any other questions, John, Kevin? All right. Well, thank you very much for the
Thank you.
update.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, Dave. Okay. Moving on, item C, update and discussion on the ADA compliant dual purpose beach boardwalk at 42nd Avenue Beach Access. So here we go. Let's tee that one up.
Let's, we're having the fire trucks.
We have a little public safety issue going on.
That people will hear that in the recording pretty
Right,
loud, so.
right.
So we had this conversation with council last month, just to get some direction about, where we find ourselves with this project, what are options moving forward. And we wanted to have some additional discussion with this committee, because I don't think that council gave a definitive direction to the staff last month. Certainly seems to be some interest in the city pursuing the alternative or the additional location where we can accommodate a relatively flat boardwalk and handicap access at 34A. And from our perspective, we are going to be engaging a surveyor to survey that area, just to confirm what our observations seem to indicate that would be a good alternative location. But with 42nd Avenue, there seems to be, again, the option of moving forward with the original plan of installing a a separate boardwalk adjacent to the emergency vehicle access, or just maintaining what we have and trying to enhance it by maintaining it more frequently and flattening it out more frequently. So I have Douglas here, so he's certainly, he's been the main point of contact on this project and working with the contractors and with the rest of the public works staff as well, getting feedback on what we can do there. But we would, if the plan is to move forward with the original plan, which we changed course after discussing it with some of the residents from 42nd Avenue and from that area that opposed the city moving forward with that project. We just find ourselves in going back to step one, if that's the case, and designing that boardwalk, getting that specs in place so that we can go out for bid and have it constructed. But it's not clear to me yet where council is in terms of going down that route or just maintaining and enhancing what we have with the existing Moby map.
Douglas, did you want to weigh in at this point? That
I
we
would
could
just
open it up.
reiterate what Desiree has said, that we are moving forward with 34A. We think we got a clear indication that that was a good alternate site. It's 10 feet wide, so it will not be a vehicular access. It will only be a boardwalk for and a parking spaces and sidewalk for wheelchairs and handicap access there. But I guess the point of question is, at 42nd, we got two choices. Either we try to improve what we're currently doing, basically having it flattened more routinely, pulling the Moby mat material that's down there flat and trying to minimize the humps, and just kind of continue as we've always done, but improve. Or the second alternative is to go back, as Desiree has mentioned, to actually doing what was originally thought of as the best alternative, and that would be adding a second boardwalk there, or adding a boardwalk in addition to the Moby mat. But as you'll recall, that did not set well with the residents directly in the area. So we think we've, just clarity on 42nd, I guess, would be helpful.
But 34A looks very promising.
34A, we're moving forward there. It just won't be any vehicular access, but we think it will be a great wheelchair access at 34A.
John or Kevin, any input? John?
I have some questions first. So we also, at the last council meeting, we also had a resident come speak who requires use of the access to the beach. And that she had some really good insights. And obviously she expressed desire to be closer to the Front Beach Commercial District area. And she also provided us with some pictures from Hilton Head. What I don't feel like I have clarity on is, why does it seem that Hilton Head, so this is first of several questions, why does it seem like they have the ability to have mats that extend above the hump? Do we know that?
So yes, and we have a pretty long history with that issue directly. We have witnessed these paths that go pretty much to the mean high water mark. So down across that soft sand. We sent OCRM photographs 4 or 5 years ago saying, hey, we want to do this as well. They directed us to file a permit request. So we did that for, I think, 4 or 5 different sites. We said, hey, we want to go all the way down past this soft sand. We got back a rejection letter at that time. We then came back and said, why are we not able to do it and everybody else is able to do it? And that's never been made crystal clear to us. I mean, I think my assumption would be that other agencies didn't they didn't ask for permission. That's kind of our suspicion. The point kind of came up to us again. We went back to OCRM and said, hey, we're still getting this question. Has something changed? Can we extend out now further? They responded, not only is the answer still no, but we have actually clarified in our permit request application that we will not be permitting that activity. Has to stop as soon as you get over the dune. So we've been relaying that, information out that they are the agency in control. We continuously ask for permission. We're not granted that permission. We do have information that at least one resident has partnered with a legislator to get OCRM to change their position on that point. And we are hopeful that that will be successful. And OCRM will basically change the position and allow us to go down to that hard packed sand. But we've just been consistently told you're not allowed to do that.
Thank you. And the second question is related to disabled access near the commercial district. And I know we have, can you just maybe speak to what options we have now and what we've considered and why certain areas will or will not work?
Yeah, so we have what I would call very good access at our newest boardwalk, right at the front beach restrooms. That is probably our flattest access. It's a straight shot. It's very wide. It's 11 feet wide. It's really a good asset to the community. It does have this issue of ending at very soft sand, which we've talked about. We can't really get past that, but that's probably our best currently. We have ADA compliant ramps adjacent to what I call between 1140 Ocean and the Sea Cabins. We have a ADA compliant ramp there. I will say that that ramp has been pointed out to us as compliant, but not good. It is because of the 12-to-1 maximum slope, it goes up for probably 150 feet of doing this kind of go up, break, up, break, up, break. So it's been pointed out as an example of, hey, we understand that you're meeting the letter of the law, but this is a really hard path to get over if you have challenges. We have the same situation, I would say, at 21st Avenue. Another built boardwalk, it's ADA compliant, but it has this series of a very long uphill ride. And they all, again, have this condition of soft sand at the end of it. So that's really, our built boardwalks. Those are the three that are good and compliant, but maybe not the best in every category.
We also have the mobility mat at 9th Avenue with 2 parking spaces there, which is a block away from the commercial area. But same issue, stopping right at the soft sand and really not being conducive for people getting all the way to the water.
So we're really stuck in regards to not going any further into, and no pun intended on that either, until we get some kind of clarification, hopefully, or change in regards to OCRM and where they stand on that. So
That's correct.
we really can't do anything in regards to the soft sand situation.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And that was a little bit of my point, is that no matter what we decide as a governing body and as a city, it's the level of accessibility is going to be very limited because of that. Like, you get to the stopping point and you can't go any farther unless you have someone who can help you, or you have a special wheelchair or whatever it is. So, and I guess maybe it's just a comment for the public that we have to make, and perhaps maybe to help generate some public pressure on OCRM that is limiting what we can do as a city. And then I will respond to the 42nd Avenue. I still believe we need to do whatever we can to create greater points of accessibility. And we heard from, I think, city staff, from the folks who would be chartered with maintaining, and we heard from the neighbors, and we heard from folks who would be users of that, of any accessibility area. And we know there's one ideal for both city staff and for folks with accessibility issues, which is the boardwalk. And so unless we're considering swapping for 34A, and I guess maybe my question would be related to the timing of that. Like, how quickly can we have a survey? Because it feels like this issue keeps going back and forth and back and forth. And I know there's a lot of frustration from those who would be beneficiaries of more greater accessibility on what is the city doing. So I'm sorry, I rambled a little bit, but I think Douglas, you're nodding, so I think. you
Yeah,
understood.
so I will tell you that with, construction, I guess, being what it is, even to get it surveyed, to start the kind of initial planning. So we're gonna need to get it surveyed. We're gonna need to have a designer actually design it. It does have, it holds water at 34A, so that's probably gonna be one of the bigger challenges to choose the right location to stop the concrete and transition to this kind of bridge over the wet part of it. So, but to back up, the surveyors have told us they're 5 to 6 weeks out just to get it surveyed, to just start the design, step one of the design processes. So it's not going to be a quick turnaround at 34A. From that regard, 42nd is fully designed, surveyed. It's basically ready to go. But again, the last that we had kind of heard was that there wasn't support because of the pushback from the neighbors adjacent to that one.
Kevin, anything?
Well, just seems to me on 42nd that the boardwalk's gonna end in the soft sand, just like the Moby Bat does. People don't want it. They say it's gonna wreck the dunes. So why spend the money on doing that and save the city some money and just kind of make the Moby Mat work a little bit better for the time being? And then if we can get an extension from DHEC to get off the soft sand, well, then maybe we bring back the idea of building the boardwalk.
Okay. Let me weigh in a little bit too. I asked Desiree to go back and see if we could find some records in regards to the citizens forum that we had, when the boardwalk was first proposed for 42nd. And we did find some notes on that, and just looking at that, with the citizens, the residents down in that area there. They brought up some points, which was some good points too, that adding the boardwalk would create another attraction on one of the most popular beach paths on the island. And they said, they qualified it all by saying, we're not against ADA compliance at all. And we have that now with the Moby Mat. But that area also on 42nd, it supports emergency access for rescue and police, pedestrian walk up from Palm Boulevard, has the only access to the Sea Oak subdivision. Many people go in there, drop off their personal beach equipment, from non-residents who are parking on Palm Boulevard, but they'll do the drop off down there. And of course, we've had issues too in the past with the beach umbrella and chair group that drop off product down there as well. So basically, there's just a lot of traffic on 42nd. And so that was that was the major reasons that the residents didn't support that. I'm with Kevin on this one. It's like, got the Moby Mat there. It seems to me that we could, work with that, it's AD compliant, make sure that we have proper maintenance with it, through our public safety people, and, and go with that for now. And, and just take the 42nd Avenue boardwalk off the table for the time being. And, I'm in favor of making that recommendation to council that we do that. And I don't know where my colleagues here stand on that, but, and then, looking at our other options on 34A and other access points that we have on the island that we maybe could improve. So. And
I'll just reiterate, I think the biggest thing that we could do is take where we have access now and extend the mats. That's for the community that needs that is looking for access. That's the big request that we keep getting. I haven't heard a lot of requests for more as much as I've heard. Can we just extend it beyond the soft sand?
Right.
So our efforts to put pressure on OCRM is really where we should be directing our energy.
But
So-
no hesitation to proceed with 34A.
No,
No.
Okay. So
because
we'll-
if that becomes a good site, more accessibility is better.
Do we need to vote on that or anything?
No, there's no action item on the agenda. We could certainly, if we need to next month, we can include it in as an action item. And I think that, just looking at the timeline, if we start pursuing 34A, pursue Greenbelt funding for that project as well, we're looking at a couple of years potentially before before we can get something constructed and usable there. So, and I agree, I think the city's efforts should now be focused on getting the General Assembly to embrace making amendments to the Beachfront Management Act, basically, to allow that for that kind of activity. Because it is as equally frustrating as it is for people who see it in other places, it is for us as well. When we don't understand why some people have it and, you know, we get the questions all the time, why? And, you know, we have a history on that, and I don't think it would be proper for us to just go ahead and extend it when we know it's not authorized by the state agency.
Yeah, it sounds like we did it the right way, the legal way, and others just did it and asked for forgiveness later. That's what it looks like. Okay, so we will take this up with council again, as to what our discussion's been. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to item D, which is update on the proposed public dock and green space at the Isle of Palms Marina. And Desiree, I'll ask for you to weigh in on this as well.
So as you all know, the city has been sort of at a standstill on this project because of the issues with the holdover tenant at the marina. We had the trial last week. Unfortunately, it was ruled as a mistrial, and we get to do this all over again in a few weeks. In the meantime, as I reported to you last month, we have been talking to some firms, design firms, and getting proposals for the creation of specifications that could help us go out for bid whenever we're ready for, you know, to pursue a project there. And we have 3 proposals. We're looking at, you know, $15,000 of an expenditure to get the design, transform Kelly Messier's concept, button it down, have, you know, any further discussion about what that would look like based on the space that we have, and be ready for construction. But again, we haven't spent any money there, just waiting on the ruling from the court on the status of that area. Because it's so close, we're looking at another jury trial, either end of August, early September. Our thoughts were, let's wait and see what comes out of that before we spend any money designing anything, putting anything on paper. Kind of hold it off for a little bit more until that time, and then we can proceed once we know what the ruling from the court will be. Just wanted to make sure that that's something that you agree with that approach. I mean, if anybody has any other thoughts.
John, Kevin? No. Now, you've done pre-planning already. I mean, you've already gotten to the point where you're getting proposals and that sort of thing. And so you've probably gone as far as you need to go at this point. To your point, spending money now until we know the outcome probably would not be the smart thing to do. So I agree with your comments.
Okay.
All right. Item E, under old business, discussion and consideration of noise agreement with Marker 116 LLC.
All right, so with that one, again, if it's okay with the committee, if we can delay this until next month. There's no urgency on it yet, now knowing that the restaurant's a little bit more, delayed than what we originally anticipated. And I know that they have more pressing issues that they're working on right now, like getting lumber and, all that stuff. So we're just holding off on this until they have more time to discuss this amongst themselves and with their attorneys and provide feedback to us. So we don't have anything to report other than, they have the amendment that we have presented to council, and we've had some informal conversations about what that means. And but other than that, this is not ready for full ratification just yet, out of courtesy to all the work that they're doing now. That would be more pressing.
Okay. Anything?
Good.
Good. All right, moving on to new business. Discussion and consideration of ordinance 2021-10. An ordinance to authorize the temporary use of new or additional space for outdoor dining services.
You all, in your packets, you have a copy of ordinance 2021-10. This ordinance was presented to city council for first reading last month. It was approved unanimously. As you all know, the emergency ordinance that allowed some exceptions for businesses as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic has expired in late June. And this is an initiative that this committee has worked on for a couple months now, wanting to give businesses as much flexibility as we can to allow outdoor dining, not only to accommodate public health standards or conveniences, but also assist these businesses in recovering economically from a very tough year. One of the things that we wanted to chat with you all is item E, which it talks about when the temporary suspension would expire. We looked at a similar ordinance from the city of Charleston, and they're allowing it for 1 year. And where they'll go back and revisit it. We've thought the same. That would be reasonable, a 12 months timeline for the temporary suspension that would allow them to offer outdoor dining services. However, 12 months from ratification, assuming that it's ratified in July, puts all these businesses having to change their operations in the middle of the summer. So our recommendation would be to allow this for 18 months and maybe have that transition, have that evaluation and transition to happen in the fall after the busy season is over. So that's one literally fill in the blank that the committee and council would have to decide on before second reading. This ordinance, because it is a change to the zoning code, is going to the planning commission for them to review, study, and make a recommendation to city council. And that meeting is scheduled for this Wednesday. So we'll be hearing from them also their thoughts on this ordinance by the time that it goes back to council for second reading and ratification. This ordinance also requires a public hearing. That public hearing is scheduled for 5:45 on July 27th, right before city council. So the public will also have an opportunity to weigh in. We have submitted an ad in the paper, just notifying people about the public hearing, and have all this documentation on the website for their review.
Okay, so the action you need from this committee is to fill in the blank and recommend 18 months.
The committee can make a recommendation to city council, and
Uh-huh.
we can include it as an amendment for the version that's presented to council for second reading. Certainly an option for the committee to take.
John, anything?
Well, 18 months would basically be January 2023, right?
Yes, it would be
So-
18 months from ratification, so we can say until December,
Right.
12/31/2022.
I was gonna suggest, just putting a specific date on there now, and I was gonna, if we're thinking about restaurants being in season, that end of year is a little bit of a like kind of holiday week, so if we did it something like January 5th or so, I would probably go there, and that way it's truly quiet season, so maybe just go January 15th, 2023.
Like you did January 31st, so that gives you time to get it to the city council agenda
Yeah.
for January.
That's an option. Sure.
So I'll make that in the form of motion that we fill in the blank with January 31st, 2023.
I'll second it. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. All right. Let's see. Item B, discussion of installing the electrical car charging stations at the municipal parking lots. Desiree?
All right. So I brought this up to the chair a couple of weeks ago because I thought it would be a good idea for the city to consider, I guess, being forward thinking into the future. We're seeing a lot more electric vehicles in the area. And the Dominion Energy has a pilot program that is certainly appealing, seems very interesting. Certainly was interesting to me. And it includes the installation of electric car charging stations in different locations. Obviously, the municipal parking lot would be a good spot for us to consider. I included in the package sort of some documentation about that pilot program where Dominion Energy covers the installation costs and replacement costs, maintenance costs of those electric charging stations. And the city would be setting up a user fee that hopefully covers the cost of the energy consumed and the monthly facility fees, which run about, for one dual station, it's about $200 and $250 a month that the city would either be paying directly or would be trying to recoup from the by charging for those sessions. A lot of people are installing these to attract electric vehicle drivers to areas of business to accommodate that. One option for the pilot program, Dominion Energy would own, maintain, and cover all of the associated costs for about 10 years. The city would only be responsible for paying that $200 and $250 facility fee. One option to the city is not only try to set pricing that covers that, plus the energy consumed, but we could also use some funds available to us by our non-standard service fee fund, which we're now pursuing pretty strongly for the undergrounding of the utility lines. We all know that we're going to pursue that, the first project at the Marina. But that's something that we could use some of those funds towards as well. So just wanted to get your thoughts on whether this is something that you think that the city should spend time on, pursue, or if not. I mean, I think that certainly seems very appealing to us because of just a very low cost. And we would be offering an amenity that we currently don't have anywhere on the island for those, not only visitors, but it would be available to residents as well.
Okay, Kevin or John, any comments?
10-year agreement makes me a little nervous. And I guess what happens if we're paying $250 a month, which is $3,000 a year, which is $30,000 for the 10-year? What if we get no use or little use? So, but I guess we don't have any data to support any of that.
Data of, I mean, we can certainly ask them where else they've used these and sort of, I think it's a new pilot program, so I'm not sure, but that's certainly some information we would ask them to provide.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
thank you.
Yes.
A couple years ago, we talked about a similar program for 5G and smart light fixtures. There's companies that do similar programs where they'll install infrastructure for free in the hopes of future revenue, basically renting out the space. I think in general, those are typically pretty good win-win programs, and this one certainly could be. This is a good time for us to start thinking about the way that we approach new initiatives with the city, with all the strategic planning we're doing. And when something like this comes before us, my first thought is, okay, there's specific things that we're trying to do. Does this fit into one of those things? First one is, okay, it could be a revenue generator. So, and I don't know from this sheet, I don't know how many we're talking about installing. And I honestly have no idea. I don't have an electric vehicle. I don't know how much it costs typically to use one. I'm assuming that it would be a relatively nominal revenue generator, that roughly it's covering the cost plus a little bit. So I don't think it really falls in the bucket of revenue generating activity. So that one's off the table. If it increases livability or it does something else with one of our other initiatives, I don't want to try to force it into something just because we've got it, but that's the mentality that I'm trying to take so that we are really focusing our energies. you only have so much bandwidth, our staff only has so much bandwidth. We should be focused on working towards the goals that we've said, these are the top priorities. So in general, I think can be just one of those no-brainers. It might not fit into one of our strategic priorities. I have a little bit with Kevin that the devil's in the details with some of this stuff. So it's easy to say, yeah, they'll install it for free. If they say 200 to 250, it's going to be 250 a month. Right? It's not going to be the lower one. Yeah,
350.
yeah, exactly. So, at the end of the day, I don't know how many we're talking about installing here. What does the pilot program look like? If they do have some data of other beach communities like ours where they've seen these and they can show us some utilization rates, or if we have any demand data from our community, I haven't heard outreach personally, not that I would, but I haven't heard outreach from folks necessarily saying, we really think there should be some electric charging stations at your community beach parking. So I think, while it could be an obvious win-win, I'm not saying out of hand dismissing it. I just think there's a little bit more insights and information I would need to say like, yeah, let's spend our time making this a reality.
Okay. And I agree with those comments wholeheartedly that were just made by both of my colleagues here. I think, again, the devil's in the details, as they mentioned. If we could get more information, Desiree,
Mhm.
and come back and let's talk further about this. I mean, the 10-year agreement, the contract, I mean, is that a hard contract that we would be locked into for 10 years? If we get no utilization, we have no way to get out of it. I think we all probably suspect that going forward in today's world, that electric vehicles will be more utilized than they are now. So there's probably going to be more demand.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those things that if we look at it, that can be a positive for our community, in regards to, the providing a service like this. So just more information is needed. And in other communities that have been using this, if they have it all, I see this as it's pending regulatory approval. So has it been utilized before, or is it still just a proposal?
I don't know if they've
Yeah,
done it before.
I mean, this doesn't say that they've actually installed them anywhere. They're just offering to do it pending
Mhm.
regulatory approval. So
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah.
may not even be something you can do at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, go
That-
ahead. Yeah.
That brings a good point. Dominion Energy is presumably bringing this to our doorstep, which means they see some potential net positive for themselves. So there's likely other companies that might do something similar that might give us a more competitive option. So I would say we should also, if we're going to pursue something, evaluate if there's others that do this type of thing.
All right.
Is that good?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Item C, consideration of change order to ATM contract for additional construction administration services for the Marina Dock Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $40,000. So Desiree, if you will bring us up to date on that.
All right. So the packet includes the proposal from ATM and also a copy of the proposal for consulting services that the city entered last year for their contract construction administration services related to the dock rehab project that was executed in October of last year. At that time, you can see that the assumptions that were made in that proposal was that the contract, I'm sorry, I'm saying contract when I need to say construction. The construction schedule was supposed to be, was assumed to take 6 months. And at that time, they were giving us sort of a monthly fee for any additional, there was an understanding if the contract extended, the construction extended 6 months, that we would be reviewing that proposal at that time. As we all know, that construction schedule has because of a lot of delays and just additional complication, we're now looking at getting that project completed in mid-November. Because of that, there's, ATM is requesting a change order to their existing construction administration services to account for that. I just want to mention as well, they have, just as it's spelled out in the proposal, they have expended a lot of work in some out of scope issues. One, you all recall, there was a lot of work and a lot of back and forth with a transformer, where that was going to be relocated. You know, there's been some issues associated with the floating dock design submittals. That's something that we're going to be handling directly with Salmons, because there's some costs that need to be recovered from that, because they're required to submit one comprehensive floating dock design submittal. And to date, they have reviewed six as of the date of this proposal. But regardless, you know, we need to have ATM overseeing the work that's happening at the Marina. I think they've done a good job. As you can see in a section of the proposal, they are not requesting compensation associated with some of the additional out of scope submittal reviews, and compensation for 2 months of construction administration services that have already been performed to date, and were beyond the scope of their original agreement.
So the $7,500 in labor, they want to eat that themselves in regards, and also May and June of the construction, overseeing of the construction activities.
Correct.
And then the $40,000 is a proposed fee if we get it completed by mid-November.
Correct.
Is that proposed fee the actual fee, or just, is that going to be flexible also?
No, that is the fee.
John or Kevin, you want to weigh in?
Well, I mean, I know it seems like every meeting we get more and more cost to the marina down there. And I'm sure the residents aren't happy, and we're probably not happy with it, but this is a one-time deal fixing these docks and this marina down here. And we need to do it right. We need to have the engineer involved to the end. And as I was always said, the more people in the boat that we can put in the boat, if it starts leaking, we'll have in the boat with us, helping us. So I know it's more money, but we need them to be involved. We got to do this. We got to make sure this is done right. So I would support it. John?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts and then a couple of questions. A lot of the engineers that I work with now, they do construction administration at a guaranteed an hourly rate for this reason, because it's hard to, construction administration is so variable. It's hard to do a package price and know how much you're actually going to expend. And, you know, it prevents the situation where now they can just do the work and then bill us for the actual work that they do. We're too far gone from the first one to do that. And I don't know that we get any benefit from doing that. I just maybe am opining a little bit that that's the case here, that, you know, the agreement is written kind of weird, where the note just says the scope assumes a 6 month, but it doesn't say that the scope of this agreement is for 6 months. There's no real term in the original agreement as to how long it lasts. I also note some of the items that they have in their updated proposal are things that are covered in the original agreement, that presumably the amount of work is the same irrespective of how long it went on. For example, the contractor's applications for payments. Presumably the contractor is applying for payment as they hit certain milestones, not at certain times. So I'm not sure why that would necessarily need to be something that's extended by time. In other words, the fact that the timeline has been extended doesn't necessarily extend the amount of work that ATM has done on all fronts, if that makes sense. So I mean, I appreciate that, you know, the spirit of cooperation that they're trying to espouse here. But I have to express a little bit of frustration with myself, frankly, with looking at the old agreement and not having that degree of specificity of a term when we're doing a lump sum like that, that it really isn't clearly laid out, even though it has that sort of assumption note in there. So I guess moving forward, I want to make sure that we don't come on those things again. So again, we've got that note. It assumes a certain amount of things. It assumes a completion date of November 19th. What happens if we get to December and it's not completed? I'd like to have a little bit more buttoned up agreement with them in terms of, what are the services that were covered on the previous agreement that are being recovered again now in this new one? And how are we going to button up and make sure that, we're covered in all circumstances? And I'm okay if we say this covers, this amount covers us to November 19th, and then they're going to bill us out, whatever it is, at least give us something so that we're not back here if it's extended and we're having to say, well, here we are again. But I'm sorry, and I should say, I'm with Kevin. We need the oversight. We need the engineers making sure that it's done right. Like we need ATM. So we've got to figure this out. We got to make it work. I just want to make sure we've got it buttoned up.
Okay, good comments from both of the other committee members, and I agree. It's a bit frustrating. I mean, we know that we've had these issues come up all through the year, and basically what was assumed to be 6 months is now assumed to be 12 months, double the time. If it gets completed by November the 19th. So I just don't know how a 6-month construction schedule assumption was accurate to begin with. So I'm with John and Kevin. I think we need to get some things more clarified, tightened up. I don't think we have any recourse other than to make sure that however we're going to do this today, advance it on to council to look at and discuss. But we certainly have to have the engineers on site during the duration of the project. So
If you need a motion.
yeah.
for
Yes,
that,
sir,
yeah.
please.
I'll make a motion that we approve a change order in the amount of $40,000 for ATM with those additional caveats being addressed. Bring to council.
I'll second. Any discussion? Further discussion?
I just want to make one note because I know Kirby's going to hear this, and I do. I mean, I acknowledge they've done a lot of out of scope work, so there is a spirit of cooperation here, and I appreciate that and understand that. Looking for clarity moving forward. So
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. All right. Where are we?
item D.
Yeah, item D. Thank you. Discussion and consideration of amendments to marker 116 lease to allow overnight docking in unforeseen circumstances to protect the health and welfare of patrons and to delay payment of base rent for 2021 due to delays in construction and extended completion schedule. Okay, Desiree?
Yes, then I'll let Chrissy or Dave fill any gaps. As you all know, two items that are here for discussion and consideration. One is the current agreement between the lease and the restaurant prohibits any type of overnight docking at that dock with the exception of one boat. And I think that the restaurant still has a plan to have some type of ferry or transportation service for people, for restaurants. And that was for patrons of the restaurant. And that was the reason why that exception was included in the lease, so that they can maintain that boat on site at all times. Since then, they have brought up a point that they want to make sure that they're not found in a non-compliance in the future scenario where you have a person arriving to the restaurant via dock, by their boat. Somehow, they're either they've oversuffered themselves or they shouldn't be driving that boat back, and they Uber home, and then you have that boat docked in their section of dock. They want to make sure that there is some type of flexibility included in their lease that would not find them at fault because a situation like that happens. There is no attempt or desire or request to make, for them to have the ability to rent slips or generate some revenue. I mean, that's not the case, and that's not something that the city would support because we already have a marina operations on site. It would just be them having the ability to send somebody home, leave a boat, get it picked up the next day, if there's a need because of, any issues with that particular person. I guess, did I make did I convey it the right way? And then the other request is, as you all know, the first year of that lease in terms of rent payments begins in August. That was done with the understanding that the Marina restaurant would be opening this spring. We know that that's not the case, and that schedule has the opening of the restaurant delayed. They have requested some consideration from the city to delay that, forgive that. It's up to council for the first $40,000. So it's $8,000 for the first 5 months of the year, and then next year they start paying their regular base rent of over $100,000, and the additional rent provision when they meet certain thresholds. So that's again, a request to the committee, if the committee wants to make a recommendation to full council. These changes are amendments to leases. And so, as you all know, we do those by ordinance, which would require 2 readings. But they would like to get some direction whether council, this is something that council would support and consider. I don't know if you all want to hear directly from them, or we can.
Well, we have
John.
to, maybe let's take each in hand. The First Amendment with the overnight parking, I think incredibly logical. We don't want to encourage drunk driving,
This is about the boats for the restaurant dock.
drunk boat driving.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
We don't want that
know
either.
So totally makes sense that this amendment, was this drafted by our legal?
It was not. It was drafted by their attorney. As you all know, our attorney has been somewhat busy with the trial, and this is something that we're going to meet this week to discuss. So I don't have any feedback from our attorneys yet, whether this language, we're comfortable with it, or we have some other language that we would like to recommend. But in essence, that's what,
Yeah.
that's what we will be doing this week.
On its face, the language looks pretty good to me, but I would want the recommendation from our council, but I would be happy to send this along to council personally.
Kevin, anything?
So I probably should know this, but how many fingers dock slips does the restaurant control?
There are no finger slips. So
Well,
so it's half of that T dock on the intercoastal.
so how many?
How many
possible-
feet?
how-
I think it's about 6. Mhm.
So how did we land on just one overnight? How did we agree to just one overnight with them in the lease? What was the reasoning behind it?
So they, during the lease negotiation, they indicated that they have intentions of having a boat that brings people from different locations to the Marina restaurant. So the idea was to allow one boat because of that. But it's something that the city has tightened up because we don't want another marina competing with the marina operations.
I got you.
And the goal of that space is for people who want to go to the restaurant to dine and hopefully not drink a lot, but to go to the restaurant. So that's why the overnight restriction is in
Got it.
place.
Yeah, just a little background. No, I'm all for it. I definitely understand where they're coming from. And I would be worried about that as well. Will you keep some kind of log that, like,
If you don't mind, please.
Yeah, please go.
You nail those repeat offenders.
well, no, well, yeah, maybe.
So
Because I know we're not, I think this says that we don't have to approve that somebody's parking
Yeah.
overnight, which is fine. We don't
Yeah.
want that. But
no, and I
I'm
think,
sure from your standpoint, you'd want to keep a log.
yeah, well, you'd want to know who it was and all that kind of stuff
Right,
and get their
right.
information. And we've, being in the restaurant business for as long, you do have that in your parking lot because that's the number one thing. If you have noticed that somebody's come in, which happens often, that's been overserved or something like that, we get the managers on, they're aware, they talk to them and, many times we will say, hey, we'll pay for your Uber to get you home safely, just keep your car here and we'll take care of it. And then we have their information, all that kind of stuff. So we kind of had this come up with the boat situation as well, people coming off capers or bulls or whatever. We plan on having a dock hand there so we can kind of control it and kind of see, but it's just a safety thing. So yeah, we would have a log of who's there and, okay, what, this guy never came back for his boat. And then going back, would want to get those moved in the, by the next day, because we'd have more people coming in to, stop at the restaurant and stuff like that. So the intention wouldn't be to, have it sit there all day the next day. That's going to hurt, hurt our operation. So I think it's just really, we've seen it with cars and we've, now experiencing, we'll have this boat area that I think is just smart, and safe to do. So.
And I would think that it'd be all right if the city wanted to see that at the end of the year.
Sure.
It'd be fine. Yep. Okay.
Okay, well, I think it's a smart thing to do as well. I mean, we don't want to have situation where someone's possibly over imbibed and then drive a boat away from a dock and not only hurt themselves, but hurt other people in and around the waterway. So I'm in favor of it. I do agree that we need to go back and make sure that from a legal standpoint, we have the language correct. And to Dave's point too, about having, if this does happen and a boat gets left there, overnight, then hopefully the next day they will remember where they left the boat, come back and get it. So I'm good with this. Is there anything we need to do in regards to this first part other than just give you the direction to go back to legal?
Yes, because it is included as an action item, if the committee wants to make a recommendation authorizing me to work on, the language with the attorney, and then once it's vetted by the attorney, bring it before city council for their discussion and consideration.
So moved.
Any
Equal
other
opinion?
discussion?
Yeah, if we can restate the motion. Motions are very important. I just want to make sure that.
You're authorizing the administrator to return that language to the city's attorney
For
approval.
review.
For review and then a recommendation to council.
Is that what
How
you got?
about motion to approve the amendment pursuant or
Pursuant
Pursuant
legal
to-
review.
a review from our legal counsel?
That's better.
Now, is that your motion, John, or is that Kevin? Does Kevin have to withdraw his
I
motion?
think John helped Kevin's motion.
Yeah, there you go. He
Oh,
did.
okay, so.
So I withdraw mine.
No, no,
No,
no,
no,
no, we're good.
no, Your
That's what you
collaboration
meant to
partnership.
say.
Yeah, okay.
And it's been seconded.
Yes.
Second that
Okay,
motion.
so, and did we vote on it? I think we did.
No, you
No,
have
we didn't.
not.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Okay, now the second part of it.
Yes, so the second part, delay payment of base rent for 2021 due to delays in construction and extended completion schedule.
Can I ask some questions of
Sure.
Dave while you're here?
Yeah.
So first of all, how much have expenses and costs related to this renovation? Give me a ballpark percentage that they have exceeded initial estimates. If you don't mind.
Yeah, it's hard to, I'd have to go back and see where we originally were, but, the big things, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, which are the big pieces, we took all the electrical out, all the panels, everything. So that building will have brand new up to code electrical wiring, sub panels, all that kind of stuff. Plumbing, all new plumbing, the right joints, no leaks, like all that kind of stuff. And then just getting it up to, we knew of some areas that we needed to work on, like that back area where the old cooler was. But when we took the old bathroom floors up, there was, I think some councilmen have seen it. There's no floor. It's surprising that actually didn't fall through. So a lot of that. So I don't have a specific number on that, but it's been more, than we expected. So we're, but we, agreed to do it the right way. And I think, being in the restaurant business, you have to start with an operation that's up to speed and the stuff works right, or you're just going to have a disaster the whole time you're in that building. So we just made those hard decisions to do it the right way, get it done right and stuff like that. So I don't necessarily have a number yet of where we're at, but it's not where we're uncomfortable with it. We knew what we were getting into, kind of thing. I think it's the biggest thing is the delays on stuff that, we want to be open right now. I mean, that's the worst thing to have sit with a restaurant that's not open. So we've got the fire to get it done. And if we can push, the suppliers to get us stuff, we'll get open as soon as possible.
So roughly, we had an initial estimate of about 2 million, right?
Mhm.
I'm not making that up. Okay, good. So we had an initial estimate about 2 million. We already saw that the parking lot that you absorbed some of the cost for was higher than expected. That was an unforeseen cost. I don't know. We don't know the exact numbers. Might be good to have.
It's over 2 million we're
Yeah.
at, so.
It might be good to have just some ballparks just for council. I'm in favor of this, I guess, if that wasn't apparent. But in terms of, obviously you're taking the hit from revenue. You're not generating revenue
Right.
because you're not open, which is the worst, probably the worst than all the cost stuff that I'm talking about, but it's double hit.
Yeah.
You're paying more, you're not making any money. So everyone in this, all the residents and everyone up here wants this to be a successful community gathering place. So, restaurant, but, so I'm in favor of this. I welcome input from my colleagues, but I just feel like the double whammy of we're not getting revenue when we expected it. And, there were things that we didn't anticipate when we opened things up. Obviously, the supply chain issues that we're facing with everything in the world. So,
Kevin?
Just a quick question. I mean, are we leaving it open-ended? Are we gonna put a date in there? Do you have any idea?
To when to start, I think that was going to be up to council on what, I think we're just asking for the framework, and then I think it would go to council to say, what to do with that, with a time frame. And I think we're saying at least starting January.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that the main point is based on the current language that we have, they are supposed to be starting to pay in a few weeks, and they're clearly not generating any income. And the thought was, and the request was, can the city consider delaying that until a time when they are generating revenue for us to receive that $40,000 later? And we can come up with, options to bring before city council, but this is, again, the first time that the committee is looking at it and thinking about it. If that's the direction y'all want to go, I can certainly work on some options for you all to consider that are helpful to the tenants.
I think it's important to reinforce too, that this is not forgiveness on $40,000 in rent. It's just delaying it to a future time when we have revenue coming in. So that's an accurate statement there, sure. But, and I think with delay in construction and some of the materials and things like that, I'm in a spot here too that I agree with Kevin and John. I think that we ought to take this to council and talk about, recommending a delay, but talk about how that might look going forward. So do we need to make a motion on that, right?
Yes, please, sir.
Okay. All right.
wasn't there a specific proposal that you shared with us that for 5 months, the 8,000 for 5 months was the request?
So that is what they're required to pay
Right.
right now, 40,000 for the next
Oh,
5 months.
it wasn't a monthly payment, it was a one-time upfront.
No, it's a monthly payment. The way that their lease is written, it's a monthly payment of $8,000 for the next 5 months,
Yeah.
for a total of 40,000 for the first year.
Right.
That's how it is right now. They're
Well-
requesting some
Yeah.
type of delay or forgiveness. I don't know. I mean.
Yeah.
it's up to-
Yeah, so it's a question, do we want to, okay, so there's not a specific proposal out there?
No,
Okay. Well,
they're just coming to us asking for some type of relief because of the
Right.
fact that they're not
Sure.
opening and generating any income.
Sure. Well, we've just gotten a timeline. Obviously, all construction timelines are subject to change. But I'll make the motion that we delay until, it was supposed to start in August.
Correct.
So I don't know, to being reasonable when revenue, we expected revenue to start in July, I think when that lease, when we signed that.
Do
Oh,
we need
when
to
it-
determine that? Or
Yeah, I
do we-
don't think,
Wait, I don't think,
I think we're asking to just take it to council. And then
Mhm.
it's kind of like, hey,
To
we're
delay.
asking for forgiveness, y'all come up with the terms.
I think we're voting just on taking it to council and say, yeah, we want to consider delay and then discuss in council what that would look like in terms of time frame. Am I correct?
That's,
Yeah,
that's up to you all.
us. Okay, all right, so.
Their request, so their original request was to the city was, would the city consider forgiving the first $40,000 of 2021?
Because it jumps up to 20 in January. What's the monthly jump up to in January?
It goes up to 100,000 for the first few years, and then there's a different schedule there. The way that it's presented here is it's a delay. Certainly, city council can decide to forgive the first $40,000 if that's where you all want to go. That's not contemplated in our budget. So that would be an impact from a budgetary perspective for the city. One alternative, one option is to delay that first $40,000 until they're generating more income and can make the city whole, if you will, at that time. Certainly, there are some that believe that because of the increase in the cost that they're not responsible for in construction, there may be some on council that would be supportive of forgiving the first $40,000. That's going to be up to you all to discuss. I'm seeking some type of direction because whatever council decides, it has to be done in the form of an ordinance and an amendment to the lease. I think that all of us don't want them to be in default August 1st because they are not paying rent at that point.
How about if we make a motion to delay payment of the base rent for 2021 and discuss in city council? Is that clear enough?
That's good enough.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, all right, last item. E, discussion of shared parking in the Marina site. And Desiree, I will turn this over to you at this point.
Um,
Well, I'll tell you what, let me tee it up, okay? We,
I'm not sure.
yeah. Actually, I had some conversation with Desiree a few days ago. And we talked about, this item here in shared parking and I think one of the things that we would all like to see is some clarification in regards to shared parking and how that looks. There's a lot of activity going on down at the marina, as we all know, whether it be the construction, whether there's, and there's vehicles all over the shared parking area. And quite honestly, it's just, I think we're in a situation where we need to make sure everybody's on the same page. And I don't know at this point what that looks like, other than we get all the parties together at some point, sit down and talk it through and come to some sort of agreement and look at what possible next steps may be to clarify what the expectations would be for the shared parking area and then, hopefully have less confusion around this subject. So that's the best I can do to tee it up, if you want to take it from there.
Sure. All I would add to that is that currently the shared parking area, which you all know what it is, where it is that the only language that it sort of governs that right now in the lease is that it's shared among all tenants at the marina under the direction of the marina manager. That's it. And I think that the ambiguity with that is generating some questions, particularly when we have a new tenant that's preparing to start operating very soon. And in trying to understand exactly how that works, what was the city's intent with shared parking and how that is meant to be shared among all the tenants at the marina. So I think that's where Councilmember Rusty, Streetman was
That's good.
coming. It's kind of informal, but formal still. Was coming from when, we wanted to have this discussion at the committee. And certainly, be discussing this with the attorneys and everybody involved. And I know that we've been trying to set up a meeting with everybody and we haven't. Everybody's schedule has been so busy to get all tenants together and us and have a productive and fruitful conversation moving forward, just so that we ensure that all parties are working together and everything is clear and everybody's understanding, right, of how that is supposed to be managed.
Kevin?
Isn't there an agreement in place that all the tenants have signed?
They have a parking, so the restaurant and Marina Joint Ventures have a separate parking agreement for the use of the, what now we call the private parking lot. That's for employee parking.
But it does not include the shared.
No, the shared parking area is under a different, so it's under the city's lease with Marina Joint Ventures, where we've designated the marina manager. One of his operational duties is to manage parking management. And the shared parking area is meant to be shared among all tenants under his direction.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I think you and Desiree both hit on the big issue here, which is ambiguity and lack of clarity and lack of alignment with all of the stakeholders, from all of the tenants to city staff to city officials. So I think the next step coming out of today, we need to have a clear path of action steps to getting to clarity so that we have that. So I think that likely includes some, I'm not obviously a legal expert. I probably have said that a few times up here. I haven't gone to law school, but reading the agreement, it seems pretty ambiguous to me as to what is the exact purpose and what is the exact intended uses of that shared parking as it relates to being truly shared. So I think that the best next steps from my perspective are, number one, starting with all the stakeholders, everyone who's impacted. And I guess that would probably be staff and tenants and maybe the chair of this committee. I don't know. I'll leave it to you, Desiree, to figure out who should be involved in initial discussion and kind of set, here's, from the city's perspective, here's what we think this shared parking should be. And then from there, once, if we're able to get consensus, and great, then we can go to legal and get it drafted up so that it's buttoned up and tight and it's something that we can refer to in the years to come. And if not, then we'll have to go, if we can't get consensus, then we'll have to take a different tack, but let's go best case scenario. Let's try to get everybody who's impacted together, get aligned on some directions, get an agreement drafted, and then get in place. And, we'll cross the bridge if we can't come to a consensus when we get there. And I don't know, I'm gonna look at some of the tenants for thoughts on alternatives. Obviously my colleagues over here as well, but I think we all want this. At the end of the day, everyone's got businesses to run down the marina. Everyone wants to be successful. Everyone wants to coexist. We want, the marina to be successful out there. So let's start with, I think, the easiest and just get everybody. That's my 2 cents. I'll stop.
Thank you, John. And that was really the purpose of putting this on the agenda today, was to open up some discussion and next steps, because it really comes down to a point where, quite honestly, I mean, I get calls frequently, and I'm sure some of my colleagues do as well. It may be other council members with people that are concerned about shared parking, concerned about overflow in the marina itself. And I know that's a little bit of different discussion, and it's a busy time of the year. But we at least need to have a situation here where everybody can attempt to get on, and hopefully get on the same page, agree, and take some of the confusion out of this whole subject here, and yet do our due diligence here. As John had mentioned, make sure that we get all the stakeholders involved and see how this looks going forward.
I-
So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
well, we got everybody here now. I don't know if it's worth trying to put something on the calendar if schedules are hard to get aligned. No, we got all the lease tenants.
Yeah, no. I can communicate, I'll set it up so that it's a priority, certainly. It is for me, and I know for all of them as well, to get it all squared away and get a meeting set.
Okay. Yes, go ahead. So just state your name when you come up, please.
Brian Berrigan, out of Palms Marina. We've got a parking agreement in place that addresses the shared parking lot. And they came to me with the request to have it free for their customers from 8 PM to 5 AM. And I granted that request. So I don't see why or how there's ambiguity. It's spelled out in our agreement. I'm happy to meet. I think it's a good idea. We've got several other issues that we need to meet on.
That's,
So I think that's a good idea,
yeah,
but
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do think that that's what we'd like to have as an outcome, that we all agree to meet. Whoever the stakeholders, I mean, you'd certainly be you, be Marker 116, city administration, maybe myself. But, I mean, I know there's an agreement that you've got out there in place to some extent, but it just seems that every few days, something else comes up in regards to this, and we just need to make sure we get everybody on the same page, sit down, discuss it, make sure everybody understands exactly what this looks like, and, and craft out, next steps. So, and you're welcome to go on for a minute too, Brian.
I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you.
welcome.
Happy to get together.
Okay. Anything from, Dave or Chrissy? Okay. All right. For those in the audience who couldn't hear Dave because he wasn't a microphone, he agreed it would be good for everybody to get together. So if Desiree can coordinate that, then we'll move on. So, okay. Any other input? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And let's see, miscellaneous business. Our next meeting date is 1:30 PM, Monday, August the 2nd, 2021. I'm assuming that's good with the other committee members. And we don't need an executive session.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.